Welcome to the Positively You podcast. I'm your host, Jessie Larson, and I'm passionate about helping you shift the way you think so you can create a life you're absolutely obsessed with. Each week, I'll be bringing you a guest or a thought that's going to help you feel more optimistic and equipped to take real action. Get ready to push past limiting beliefs, ditch that negativity, and start showing up as the best and most positive version of you. Girl, let's do this. Welcome back to another episode of the Positively You podcast. I'm Jessie, and I'm very excited about today's interview today with Brooke Romney. So, Brooke, would you like to say hi, welcome yourself, and tell us a little bit about you and your mission?
I'm so excited to be here. I am a mom of 4 boys. My oldest is married, so I have a daughter-in-law. I have 2 grandbabies. My youngest is 12. So I have been kind of in that teen parenting space for a long time. I absolutely love teens. I love helping parents navigate those teen years. I'm also the author of the Modern Manners book series. There's 2 for teens and 1 for kids. And I have absolutely loved the changes I've seen in people's homes and families because of those books. So I have a really active Instagram community that I love being a part of. And yeah, I think that's about it.
I love it. I'm picking up right where you're leaving off. So your youngest is 12. My oldest is 12 and will be 13 at the end of the month. So I'm like going right into those teenage years. And I have to tell you, I'm actually really excited about the teenage years. I loved my kids as babies. And when those stupid Facebook time hop pictures pop up and show like 10 years ago or 6 years ago or whatever, it makes my heart hurt a little bit about how quickly they grew. And I love that time. But I have to say, I've actually really been looking forward to the teenage years and just the people that my kids are becoming. It's been a lot of fun. And I have to thank you and people like you who have spoken so positively about parenting teens and about those years, because it really does. The words that we hear, it shifts our thinking and our mindset around it. And so thank you, number one, for being outspoken about it and for putting good out into the world, because I think there's a lot of noise about how rough the teenage years are and like, oh my gosh, buckle up and your kids are going to hate you and just everything. So it doesn't have to be that way. You really speak to empowering your parenting and empowering your kids and your family. And I want to ask like where that comes from. How have you figured out how to enjoy parenting? And is that intentional or are you just lucky?
Yeah, well, I do. I would say like I was born a little bit more of an optimist than a pessimist, which I think is a blessing. But I have worked really hard to be able to find a lot of joy in parenthood and in my choice to be a mom and a choice to be a mom that enjoys her job. When I think of jobs, I think there's good things and bad things to all of the things that we choose to do. And if we sit and dwell on this is the worst, that's what we're going to see. That's what we're going to find. But there's really great things about it too. And I had an experience when I was a younger mom, and there was a mom who was such a great influence on me where she chose every day to enjoy her kids. It doesn't mean they weren't a pain. They didn't give her a hard time. There weren't really difficult things going on in their family. But she chose to come at motherhood with an attitude of enjoyment. And I'm so lucky that I get to do this. And as I watched her be a mom, I thought, that's the kind of mom I want my kids to have. That's the one I want them to remember. Because I do enjoy it and I am grateful and I love it, even when things are really hard. And I think I never want to give someone like too rosy of an idea of the teenage years because they can be hard. And I don't want someone going into it saying these are going to be the best years ever and we're going to have the closest relationship. Because there are some hard things that happen and there's kids' personalities that can be really difficult. There's really natural things that happen like differentiation where our kids are supposed to pull away from us and become individuals. Mm-hmm. And that's what's supposed to happen. So I think going in to the teenage years with eyes open, that there's going to be some bumps in the road, but also with the idea that we can figure it out and we can love each other through it. And we can also have a lot of good times, even when life is tricky.
Yeah. Ooh, I love that. And I'm so glad that you had a good example for you too. I'll go off on my little soapbox here, but it only takes one person to have that ripple effect. I talk about ripple effects on the podcast all the time. And it's so cool when you can kind of be a couple ripples away and trace that back and be like, oh, yeah, like look at the good that people are putting out. So just a little side thing there. But as you're looking forward to, yeah, you don't want to put the rose-colored glasses on at all. And I'm naturally a more positive person as well. Hello, my podcast is called the Positively You podcast. Like I'm wearing sunshine yellow, but I also really like the duality and the opposites. And I'm always kind of looking for that and the full spectrum of our experiences. And I don't know if this makes me weird or not, but I'm a little bit looking forward to some of those challenging parts of the teenage years because that's where our growth happens. And that's where my kids get to grow. If it is just easy and sunshiny, then like adulthood might be really, really tricky for them because they haven't had to battle through any of those things. And so, not that I'm super looking forward to a lot of the trickiness that the teenage years are going to bring to me, but I am a little bit because what a fun opportunity. I don't know if fun's the right word, but what an opportunity for me to help my kids through those things when maybe the stakes aren't as high yet. Maybe that makes me really weird and kind
I
of a
actually
sadist.
love that perspective. And one of the things that I found is through some of the hardest times that I've had with my kids, our relationship has deepened and our trust has grown. Our resilience, our confidence, those things have all been a really positive effect of some really challenging times. And it's interesting that, some of my kids have been a little harder than others. And the lessons that I have learned from those who have tested and tried us more have really made me a better parent to those who have been like a little easier, gone with the flow a little bit more. It's allowed me to really refine my parenting and be a lot more deliberate because I know what matters.
Yeah,
And I think that that's what some of those challenging times can do. It really helps us dig into ourselves. It helps us understand who we are. It helps us form our own identity beyond that of like, if my kids are good, then I'm a good parent.
yeah,
It's really helped me understand that I can be a great parent while my kids are not doing the best things. And that's been a really important shift for me in understanding that my identity comes from inside of me instead of the outside.
absolutely. Especially when, I was actually listening to a podcast earlier on something like this about getting our validation and our worth from the outputs of someone else and how tricky that is, right? Like if our kids are doing good, then I'm good. And if you're always putting your value and your validation in someone else's actions, you're going to be disappointed at least 50% of the time, if not more. So
So
that's
true.
a really good lesson. I'm glad that you shared that. It's a good kind of transition that I want to ask you next. So if we're besides just the hard things and being able to kind of shift our mindset and our perspective there, what are some ways that we can increase our connection and have a strong bond with our teen? Because you mentioned that they are supposed to pull away. They are becoming more individual and that is a good thing, but we do also want to have that connection with them. What are some like actual tangible practical things that we can do to build strong bonds with our teens?
So, one of the best ways I think we can do that is by getting into the things they're into.
Mm,
So, it's easy as a parent to dismiss what kids and teens think is
yeah.
fun, cool, or interesting. And it actually comes more naturally to all of us to be like, that's a weird song. Why are you watching that on YouTube? Those
Yep.
types of things. And one of the ways that we can really create some of those bonds is by getting excited about the things that they're excited about. And that creates just a shared experience. It also helps them know that this is someone I can come to when I'm excited. This is someone I can share something cool with. You know, I think it's really important to laugh at the videos people show you. I know that sounds
Mm,
so dumb, but have you ever thought something was so funny and shown it to a friend or your husband or whatever, and they're like, that's not funny?
yeah.
Like, you feel so shut down. And I think of that with teens all the time is just, you're probably not going to think it's that funny, but laugh or say, thanks for showing me, like, show me another one. That helps them know that you're interested in them and the things they're interested in. The other thing that can be really awesome is if you can introduce them to things that you love so that you can do things that you enjoy with your child.
Yes.
So, like if you love mountain biking, that's one of my favorite things about kids getting older is they're capable of doing a lot of the things that are fun for you.
Hmm.
So get them a mountain bike, take them out with you. I've seen a lot of parents with their kids at the gym, like doing workouts. I've seen, there's things that our family loves to do. Like I love to hike, and my kids don't always love the idea of hiking, but when we're out and doing it, they really love being together that way. Um, Sharing like a show that you liked growing up, like we showed them movies that we thought were so fun when we were kids, and they actually really liked them. Movies in the 90s were really good, and like my teens are fans of them now. um, and so creating opportunities to have shared experiences so that your interactions, like you're going to have some negative interactions. You're going to have to say, like, you got 12 missing assignments. Like, what are we going to do about this, bud? You're going to have to say, our family is a family and everyone has to contribute. You can't just leave your stuff out all over the place so somebody else has to do your work. Like, those are conversations you have to have too. So, really making sure that you have positive interactions to offset the ones that you're going to offset the negative interactions you're going to have.
Ooh, I really like that you said that. It reminds me of something I heard a little bit ago, especially when it comes to our teens, because they are gone so much that if every one of our interactions is us getting on them, right? With the, hey, your room's not clean. Hey, your screen time's too high. Hey, you have 12 missing assignments that we actually have this exact scenario today because term ends this week. Uh,
Right.
So if every interaction with you is a nagging or an on you or something, of course your connection is going to suffer a little bit. And I think that can be hard for us to even like realize if we're just living on autopilot, we're going through our life, we're making sure as moms, we're the managers of everything. And so if we're just in manager mode, our relationship's going to feel like manager mode. It's not going to feel like connection. So I really like that you brought that up of kind of making sure that we're balancing the scales a little bit there with not negative interactions, but even just our management interactions and then positive ones and inviting them in. I love too that you mentioned being excited about them. I could not care less about Pokemon. I could not. And my youngest, he's 8 and he's super into it right now. And he wants to tell me all about the things and the battles or whatever. And it's like, okay, bud. But the more enthusiastic I am about that, then he's actually enthusiastic when I want to share him something too. And we can welcome each other into that. I think that is a fantastic idea for increasing connection and something that we can do. Thank you for giving us tangible like takeaway that we can do literally today when you're done listening.
Yes. Yeah. I think it's really important to move past just ideas that sound good to some practices that we can work on, becoming habits that work for us and for our kids.
Yeah, absolutely. I like the idea of making it a habit too, where it's not something, some sort of a daily habit or a baseline of how often you're checking in with them. So it's not, oh shoot, when was the last time I gave, my 16-year-old a hug? Or when was the last time, like coming up with kind of a habit or something that you can do daily to connect with your kids. I think that's smart too.
Yeah, it's really important. I'm glad you brought up the idea of physical affection. One of the things that seems to happen a lot when kids become teens is they're big, and so it's no longer like they're going to sit on your lap or that you're going to snuggle them. It just feels a little bit awkward. So physical affection is actually really, really important during the teenage years. This is actually something I'm not that good at. I easily forget about it because it's
Hmm.
not like high on my priority list. Um, but there have been so many studies that talk about how important that physical affection is for kids and for teenagers. And so I love that you talked about like creating a habit. So hugs before bed, hugs when they come home, hugs when they leave, even if they don't want it, even if they try to squirm out of it, it's something that's really important. They were talking about how there's teenagers that can go days without physical touch,
Yeah.
like alone at school, no one's like giving them affection at home. They can go days, they can go weeks, and as humans we need that physical touch. And so making that a priority as a parent, whether you're a mom or a dad, making sure that you give those hugs. If they don't love hugs, like rubbing their back, putting your arm around them, even like a little bit of like rough housing, if that's what your boys like better, like a little push, a little like playtime, that also works. But really making sure that they do get that physical touch in.
Yeah, that's amazing. There is studies out there that say that, and I actually that triggered a thought in me of when was the last time I hugged my junior high kid because my little 8-year-old, he'll come up to me all the time and give me snuggles. And even like me and my husband, like we are hugging and, expressing physical connection all of the time. And yeah, teenagers, that is shocking, but I'm also not surprised that they can go days without that physical hug. And if you think about what you get from that, like when I heard that, it blew my mind. And it's something that I've been a lot more intentional about trying to give my 13-year-old a physical hug and being like, you need this. Like you used to be my cuddliest kid too. So I know this is something for you. So your takeaway from today, if you do nothing else, go hug your teenager at the end.
Yes, yes, it's a great takeaway.
All right, so I want to shift and talk about your manners books. I think having these good connections with our kids is fantastic, and having a good relationship here at home is awesome. But our ultimate goal is to get them out of our house, right? I was joking with my kids the other day. I'm like, yeah, no, I want you out. You got to get out. You got to be good, functioning adults, members of society. And I love how simple and easy you've made your books. My 8-year-old is devouring them. He wants to change them every day. He sits there and reads them as he's eating breakfast. He'll quiz the older two on them. So it's been kind of a fun little addition that we've had into our home. Um, so where did you come up with the idea for the manners? Why are manners so important? And how can we kind of make sure that we're teaching our kids the things they need to know? That's a loaded question.
Yeah,
I gave you a lot.
I know. No, that there's a lot of questions in there. So I'll start with the beginning. I came up with the books because I saw such a lack in their modern manners, in the ability to interact with people in a positive, aware, and kind way. I was seeing that with teenagers. We had a lot of teenagers at our house. I was, with them at middle school, at church, all these things. And I thought, wow, there is really a disconnect. And I attribute that to first technology, where
Yeah.
they've had their eyes down, headphones in, they haven't observed. Also, that our world is more virtual overall. So even if they were observing, their parents aren't having as many interactions. They're not going to the bank. They're not going to the mall. They're not going to the grocery store like they used to. They're picking things up. They're ordering from Amazon. They're not seeing all those interactions. Then you add in COVID, and for almost 2 years, there was a huge lack of interaction in person. And I realized that our kids were really behind when it came to those really soft skills. And as I watched different groups of kids, I saw that the kids who got it, who had that higher social and emotional IQ, who understood how to be with people, how to be aware and kind and confident, all those things, they were doing so much better in life. And I thought there has to be an easy solution for this so that we can teach those who don't get it, or who come from families who don't get it, or parents who never learned, or who've been really isolated, or who have, some neurodivergence that's making it difficult for them to really get what being in a community looks like. And so I searched on Amazon for a book, and there wasn't one. And so I thought, you know what, I have to create something. And so I started sharing these manners online on my social media account. Parents were eating them up. Parents were asking for them in print form. They were, talking to their kids about them. They were agreeing with me, like, yes, when I drive teenagers in my car, they all just get in. They act like I'm an Uber driver. They don't say hello. They get on their phones. These are things we need to remind our kids about. It's important. And so as I was thinking about like the type of format I could use, if I was going to create something, I wanted it to be valuable. I wanted it to be able to work and to change families, and not just share ideas, but be able to implement ideas. And so that's where the books came from.
I love it. And I can 100% agree with you on witnessing that in the real world. Like, even when I just go to a quick little fast food restaurant and there's a teenager working there and they just hand you your food. And I'm like, hello, like say hi, or here's your stuff. And you illustrated that perfectly with saying, it's Amazon and it's delivery. So they're just like, well, yeah, you just hand the food over. You don't have to interact with humans. And I've just seen that so much. And so these books that are out there, it's like, yeah, these soft skills that we don't even think about teaching. I love what you said too about eyes up and like our heads are down, our headphones are in, and we're just not paying attention. A lot of times we just learned that almost subconsciously, just like observing the world around us. And we're, like you said, we're not observing as much. And so being a little bit more intentional is fantastic. I'm super curious. You've got the three books out now. This is going to be like asking you to pick your favorite child, but what's your favorite manner?
That is a really hard one. It because it really depends
Yeah.
on the family and the kids and what they need. For a teenager, I am going to go with I think the most important manner in my first manner book is nothing online is private.
Ooh,
I've seen way too many lives of teenagers be disrupted, ruined, problems because they didn't understand that
yeah.
manner. That you have to be aware when you're online, that your digital footprint matters. Um, and I think I love that manner because I think there could be a lot of heartache saved
Yeah.
if every teen before they ever got a personal device understood that very clearly. Um, so I think that is a really important manner. I don't think it's my favorite. Probably one of my favorite manners comes from the second teen book, and it is don't put down what others love. I
Ooh, I
think
like
it's
that.
just like something that is just so natural during those teen years is anytime somebody says something they like, it's so natural to just jump in and say why it's stupid or why do you like that? I hate that. And I have seen that erode relationships, even into adult years.
Hmm.
And I think like understanding that everyone can like something different and that you can be happy that somebody likes something different. You can be curious that somebody likes something different. Um, that's a manner that I really love. And then from the kids' book, the first manner is wait for your turn to talk, which means don't interrupt. And I would say that when I polled the people on my Instagram, what do you wish kids knew? That was by far the number one. And I love the way we teach it in that book. I love the role plays that come with it. I think it makes things so clear. And it's been so cute to see even parents say, this is actually the manner that I'm working on too. Like I'm an
Yeah.
interrupter and I've been an interrupter forever. And this was a good reminder for me.
Yes, those are fantastic manners. Especially, I love the one about not putting down what people like. I think that opens up so many different avenues and so many different conversations, the least of which is not the curiosity. And using that as an avenue for curiosity, and then which leads to connection with other people. And love it. Love it. That would probably be my favorite one too. Oh, so good. And it's filled with 51 others plus every edition. So there's
Yes.
so many good examples in there, good teaching moments. I want to ask you if I'm the mom who's like, this sounds all great because we all have different starting points. So if I'm the one who's like, this is a lovely conversation, Jess and Brooke, but I'm actually really exhausted. I'm actually like completely depleted. I am down. I'm not enjoying parenthood. I don't feel like I've got, any resources, village. Like I'm in that bottom pit. What is something that you would say to that mom as like a shift, like a pivot point or a shift to get on this road? Because sometimes we can't just flip the switch and be like, "Oh, you're right. I'm going to give an affirmation to myself that says I enjoy parenting and everything's going to be bright and shiny from here on out."
So you have to start doing some things that you love. You have to start incorporating things you love into parenthood. And I'm going to give you some examples of this. You come home from a long day of work and you're exhausted and you want to connect with your kids, you want to give something to them, but you are done. You're just done.
Yeah.
I would suggest that as a parent, you start creating some rhythms with things that you love to do. So if you love getting your hair brushed and you're just tired, then you should start having your kids do beauty parlor when you come home. Like brush your hair while you guys watch a show together. If you are someone that being outside energizes you, then when you come home from work, you throw on your shoes and you do a family walk
Mm.
because you like to be outside and you like to move your body. And that's something that you can do together. If you are someone who loves like reading, like you just love to read, find a book that you are excited to read to your kids and do a read aloud, something that you like. I think as parents, sometimes we think that like everything we do has to be just for our kids or just drudgery. And what I found is the more often I'm doing things that I genuinely enjoy, the more fun being a parent is.
Mm,
And so creating some of those habits and rhythms in your family so that it's not so hard. If you love, like if you just need downtime, I love one of the families wrote into me and said, we do manners and movies. We do a manners and movies night. And so they like put those two things together and they do manners and then they watch a movie. That is something that you can do together. Like get a list of all the movies you liked as a kid and show them to your kids. You can have some really connective, fun moments that you can look forward to as a parent, whether you're coming home from work, whether it's just that you've been with toddlers all day. Um, there are some really fun ways to start enjoying life. The other thing that I would say, and I wrote a post about this a couple of years ago, but I think it's so important, is make a list of all the things that make you feel like a successful parent. So, whatever that is that makes you feel successful, and then make a list of all the things that make you love parenting. And I would say every day, do one from each list. You don't
I
have to do
love
all
that.
of them, but make sure you're doing one from each list so that at the end of the day, when you go to bed, instead of saying, like, oh, I was so bad, I did this, you go to bed and you say, today wasn't perfect, but I read to my kids, and that makes me feel like a great mom. And
Yeah.
that's what you say before you go to bed instead of a list of all the things that you didn't do. We all are going to have lists like that. We can all be better. We can all improve. And I'm actually a huge advocate of self-reflection and improvement. But during certain stages of our life, if you're like down in the dumps, I would say focus on that one good thing that you did and build on that the next day.
Yeah. I love that. And I love that your first thing was getting back to yourself. So often we think, we're reading all the parenting books and we're listening to the parenting podcasts and reading the blogs and going on Pinterest and pinning all of the tips or whatever. I love so much that you said, what is the thing that you like to do? What is the time that you can get for yourself? Because not to be cliche, but we can't pour from an empty cup and we need to be filling that. And if we can get to the point where the cup's just constantly overflowing because we're pouring into ourselves so much, I know we hear this advice, but we're not getting it. And so we keep saying it over and over again. So I love so much that that was your thing of if parenting is really hard, take a quick second to like self-reflect and do something for yourself. And then your parenting, it will come up to that as well. So, oh, I love that so much that you said it pairs perfectly with the book that I'm currently reading right now, which is Love Your Kids Without Losing Yourself. And it was so funny because it had been playing in my car and I had pushed pause on it, but it still had the title showing up. And my kids were like, "What book are you reading?" And my 8-year-old reads it. He's like, "Is this a story or like advice?" I said,
I love
"It's
it.
advice." And so I was kind of explaining it to them a little bit about what the concept of the book was. And my kids, not to toot my own horn, but they were kind of surprised. Like they were like, "Well, I feel like you do a good job at that, Mom. Like I feel like you have things." And I was like, "Thank you guys." Like, okay. And so that was just kind of a fun parenting moment and where it comes full circle back to what you said about letting your kids in on the things that excite you. They knew the things that excited me just as much as I know the things that excite them. And I think coming up with that connection, that creative, like it's this whole full circle thing. So to bring us back to it, if you're pouring into them and feeling connected and giving them the opportunity to get to know you too, then you're not losing yourself in motherhood. And it just becomes this more evolving thing instead of, filling your cup back up and then depleting it back down and filling your cup back up and depleting it back down. You can just have this ongoing connection and enjoyment in parenthood. Obviously, not without its hard, but I
Yes.
love that you said
Yes.
that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, it was really helpful for me too.
So, Brooke, you mentioned an old Instagram post that you posted, and I know your Instagram is absolute gold. Where can everyone find you, connect with you, get more of just the amazing goodness that you're putting out in the world?
So we have such a great Instagram community at Brooke Romney Writes. There are so many parents there who are so generous with their ideas and thoughts and advice. It's a great place to be, even if you're not doing the teen years yet. And then my books are all on Amazon, or a lot of times they're on sale on my own site at brookeromney.com. And I also just bravely started a TikTok, brooke.romney. Not quite sure I'm ready to announce that yet, but I've got a few videos up. And for parents who like to learn through videos, I am doing my best to also have that as an option.
I love it. I love that you're doing something brave and out of your comfort zone. I will have all of those links quick and easy in the show notes below so you guys can find Brooke easily. But I just want to say thank you so much for this conversation. This was so much fun for me.
Thank you so much, Jessie. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for hanging out with me again today. I'm so glad you pressed play. If you want to take a quick second to share this episode with someone you think would love it too, that would be amazing. If you're loving the show, make sure you go and leave a review on iTunes. Reviews are like magic for podcasts, and your review will help get this show into the ears of more amazing women just like you. And come find me over on Instagram. I'm there at positively.jessie, and I cannot wait to hang out with you some more. So until next time, have an amazing week.